You could actually blog about what we're doing and how we're messing things up.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're unpacking Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars reign, from the good to the bad to the ugly.
We want it to be something that continues to live up to the expectation that fans have.
Part 1, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Kathleen Kennedy broke out as an assistant to producer John Milius during the production of Steven Spielberg's 1941.
You can fly one, you can fly them all. Sure, I can fly the 17.
I'm sorry, Captain. I didn't realize you had a serious interest in strategic bombers.
She struck up a friendship with the director, who asked Kennedy to be his secretary. The first script Spielberg presented her with was Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Lucasfilm project Kennedy got credited on. This led to Kennedy meeting her future husband, producer Frank Marshall.
Because we both understand the need to prioritize, and so we support one another. If one of us has to go off and do a movie and we have to throw ourselves into the work, I think there's just an understanding that we have the support of each other for that.
Kennedy became a producing giant in her own right, scoring her first Oscar nomination for a little movie called E.T. In addition to co-founding Amblin Entertainment with Spielberg, Kennedy and Marshall formed their own company, which worked on other hits like The Sixth Sense, Seabiscuit, and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
I was born old. I'm sorry. No need to be. There's nothing wrong with old age.
With franchises like Back to the Future and Jurassic Park also on her resume, Kennedy was among Hollywood's most successful producers when she joined Lucasfilm as a co-chair in June 2012.
And it occurred to me one day that the perfect person to take over the company was Kathy.
The following October, the semi-retired George Lucas finalized a $4.05 billion deal with Disney to sell his company and its properties, namely Star Wars. Promoted to Lucasfilm's president, Kennedy would oversee the development of a Star Wars sequel trilogy, among other projects.
We are absolutely going to make Star Wars movies, and we're in the midst of the really fun part of the process, which is we're sitting down with a couple of writers, and we're starting to discuss ideas, and we're starting to talk about what those stories might be. Released
in 2015, The Force Awakens became the highest-grossing film domestically, a record it still holds. Critics and fans praised Episode 7, even if some felt director J.J. Abrams over-relied on nostalgia. Familiar story beats aside, Kennedy and company laid solid groundwork for A New Hope.
You're afraid that you will never be as strong as Darth Vader.
Part 2, You Were the Chosen One. In addition to the sequel trilogy, Lucasfilm would produce anthology Star Wars films, the first being Rogue One.
What is this?
It's a chance for you to make a fresh start. We think you might be able to help us.
While the prequel sounded promising, fans grew skeptical when significant reshoots were ordered several months before its planned release. Audiences were pleased with the results, however. In addition to emphasizing the war in Star Wars, Rogue One built to a surprisingly grim ending, easing concerns that the franchise would become too kid-friendly under Disney's watch.
Your father would have been proud of you, Jen.
After some argued that Force Awakens played it safe, it was encouraging to see Star Wars taking risks under Kennedy's reign. Star Wars took its biggest swing yet with the sequel trilogy's next installment, The Last Jedi.
Master Skywalker, I'm from the Resistance. Your sister Leia sent me. We need your help.
Where Force Awakens had 3 credited writers and Rogue One underwent major reshoots, Last Jedi was writer-director Rian Johnson's baby.
I wish I could make you understand, but I'm not coming back. Nothing can make me change my mind.
While still a studio production, Johnson received a fair amount of creative leeway. Kennedy had confidence in Johnson, so much so that a month before Last Jedi's release, it was announced that he'd be helming a separate trilogy.
I've dealt with plenty of trigger-happy flyboys like you. You're impulsive, dangerous, and the last thing we need right now. So stick to your post and follow my orders.
That trilogy has yet to be produced. The reception to The Last Jedi may be partially why. Critics and audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes were like the light and dark sides. Some praised the film as a stunning and philosophical adventure that evolved the mythos. Others argued the humor was forced, the plot was unfocused, and Luke Skywalker's arc betrayed the character along with the franchise.
Every word of what you just said was wrong. The rebellion is reborn today. The war is just beginning. And I will not be the last Jedi.
While much of the blame fell on Johnson's vision, the film's detractors also pointed to Lucasfilm's leadership, arguing people like Kennedy should have intervened.
What was it like working on that production?
You know, I have to say Rian Johnson is, I don't have enough accolades to say about him. He just had an amazingly good time every single day. He's such a huge fan, and I think he's done an exceptional job.
Despite the divisive reception, Last Jedi grossed over $1 billion. Disney's first 3 Star Wars movies made a combined total of roughly $4 billion, seemingly justifying Disney's purchase. This was called into question with Solo: A Star Wars Story, another anthology film released just 5 months after Last Jedi.
Han, this could work.
This is gonna work.
Even without the Last Jedi backlash, fans had trouble getting excited about a Han Solo origin story without Harrison Ford. Interest grew when Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were brought on as directors, but they were booted off the project over creative differences, according to Kennedy.
I think there's nothing better than to see what we do with an audience. It's one of the great things as filmmakers is that we get a chance to see people react to what we've done.
Co-writer Lawrence Kasdan was upset that Lord and Miller were encouraging improv while Lucasfilm felt their vision was too comedic. Yet that wasn't a problem with The Last Jedi. This isn't the only time Lord and Miller's filmmaking approach has been criticized. Just ask the Across the Spider-Verse crew. That said, almost every Lord and Miller production has been a huge critical and financial success.
So what do you think, my dear? You think your friend here can do what needs to be done?
Yes, I believe you can.
We'll never know if their take on Solo would have broken that streak, but the finished film was a massive loss for Lucasfilm. While few hated Solo, even fewer loved it. Replacement director Ron Howard brought nothing unique, again playing it safe. Unlike Force Awakens, though, there wasn't a sense of mystery or many returning fan favorites to lure audiences in.
I want to.
You want to?
To tell you everything that's happened. But I know if I do, you won't look at me the same.
What should have been a smaller scale Star Wars story wound up costing almost $300 million due in part to reshoots.
Huh. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Although Star Wars once seemed too big to fail, Solo proved otherwise, falling more than $100 million short of the estimated $500 million break-even point. This forced Lucasfilm to rethink its theatrical strategy, but one more Star Wars sequel remained. Colin Trevorrow was originally set to direct Episode 9, eventually titled The Rise of Skywalker.
There's so much I want to tell you. Tell me when you get back.
Trevorrow left after clashing with Kennedy, which became a trend. Lucasfilm brought back Abrams, who once praised Johnson's Last Jedi script. This wasn't reflected in Rise of Skywalker, which retconned much of Last Jedi, while shoehorning in new storylines like Palpatine's return. Oh, and Rey is his granddaughter now?
You will take the throne. It is your birthright to rule here. It is in your blood, our blood.
Rey's among the sequel trilogy's most polarizing elements. We've all heard the Mary Sue argument, which is honestly a lazy criticism. It's like saying Anakin and Luke suck because they're Gary Stews. Rey was passionate, curious, and well played by Daisy Ridley. Lucasfilm didn't know what to do with her, however. The first film built up Rey's backstory. The second said the past doesn't matter, and the third concluded that legacy is everything.
Who are you?
I'm Rey.
Rey who?
Rey's inconsistent journey mirrored the sequel trilogy's missteps, boiling down to a lack of leadership. Although the original trilogy had 3 different directors, George Lucas provided a common thread. Whether you're a prequel apologist or a lifelong hater, at least that trilogy was consistent with a clear endgame. Anakin becomes Darth Vader.
Lord Vader, can you hear me?
Yes, Master.
People assumed Kennedy would be the sequel trilogy's answer to Lucas.
I sort of moved that treasure trove of stories and various things to Kathy, and I have complete confidence that she's going to take them and make great movies.
Before Force Awakens release, Kennedy said, "We haven't mapped out every single detail, but ensured that Abrams, Johnson, and Trevorrow would collaborate." Well, one wanted to celebrate the past, the other wanted to let the past die, and Trevorrow's vision will never be realized.
Ryan and I are working closely together to make sure that our stories build off of each other and continue to evolve and take us to new places. And I think that's what the fans expect and what they want.
We're not saying Lucasfilm needed to have every detail figured out, but a solid beginning, middle, and end should have been set in stone. According to Kennedy, there were talks from the beginning about resurrecting Palpatine, yet his reintroduction felt like a last-minute addition, throwing the whole trilogy off track. While Rise of Skywalker still made over $1 billion, Lucasfilm knew the fandom was torn, holding off on more theatrical releases.
We had always decided that we were taking a bit of a break after finishing the saga, And now we're really starting to put pen to paper and figure out where we're headed beyond this. I think Mandalorian is certainly an indication of some of the ideas that are percolating, so we'll see.
Lucasfilm shifted focus to streaming with The Mandalorian becoming Disney Plus's flagship show.
There must be some mistake. I can get you more credits.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
While the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian restored faith, Lucasfilm's streaming output proved inconsistent, from the highs of Andor to the middle ground of Obi-Wan Kenobi to the lows of The Acolyte, the latter being canceled after 1 season.
Attack me, Jedi.
Jedi do not attack the unarmed.
Yes, you do.
In addition to low viewership, The Acolyte cost about as much as a feature with an inflated budget of $230.1 million. Disney, like other media giants, slowly realized that the streaming model doesn't make much sense, attempting to get audiences back in theaters. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Lucasfilm's first theatrical release in 4 years, was another colossal flop, however.
You don't recognize me, do you?
Whatever I did, I apologize.
Disney's recent string of money losers was targeted in South Park joining the Panderverse.
I'm scared, Mom. Will you please just look and make sure Kathleen Kennedy isn't under my bed?
Kathleen Kennedy is not under your bed.
The special questioned how Kennedy went from producing hit after hit to quote-unquote ruining Star Wars with wokeness. Although the special doesn't defend Disney's formulaic storytelling, it tries to see things from Kennedy's perspective.
All I ever wanted was to make great entertainment, believe me. But as soon as you start getting piles and piles of hate mail, endless messages calling you the C word, you can't think straight.
Well, I'm sorry I wrote all those letters. They probably was a bit much.
Reviving Star Wars was an enormous task, and from the get-go, toxic fans were rooting against Kennedy. While Kennedy holds some responsibility for the current state of Star Wars, there were many factors at play, including so-called fans who thrive on hating what they claim to love. Toxic fandom didn't start with Kennedy's reign, and it likely won't end with her either.
From now on, we're only going to make original content that doesn't pander.
Sure we will, Kate. Sure we will.
Part 3. Another awakening? In early 2025, news broke that Kennedy was searching for her successor at Lucasfilm.
If you had to leave one lesson for your successor, or for Star Wars going forward, or for Lucasfilm going forward, what would you say that is?
Work out, be healthy, and have stamina.
Kennedy confirmed that she wasn't being forced out. She isn't retiring or leaving Lucasfilm entirely, still producing The Mandalorian and Grogu, Sean Levy's untitled Star Wars film, and more. Eventually, though, Kennedy will pass the torch. Dave Filoni has been rumored, yet not confirmed, as a top choice. Some might argue that the job always should have been Filoni's, given his roots with the Clone Wars animated series and knowledge of Star Wars.
I have an idea. Don't worry, it's a good one. I think.
To be fair, Filoni had primarily worked in television at that point, whereas Kennedy had multiple theatrical franchises under her belt. Kennedy made sense on paper, but given Filoni's growth with the franchise since then, now seems like his time.
I think Star Wars is so unique in the way you have to create it. Everything is going to be crafted. You know, it's hard just to go to these locations. They're all so special and unique and such a character.
This isn't to say Filoni already has the job. Even if he does, Filoni's track record isn't perfect either, with the Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka getting mixed reviews.
Come no closer.
The map. Give it to us.
Us.
Filoni also wasn't heavily involved in Andor, arguably the best Star Wars content under Kennedy's reign. Time will only tell if Filoni's the franchise's only hope. As for Kennedy's tenure, it's easy to dwell on the bad and the ugly.
Quality is always everything. Yeah. We want to tell resonating stories that really speak to what Star Wars is.
However, we should also remember the good, even great, from Andor's prison break, to the first reveal of Baby Yoda, to Han Solo saying,
Chewie, we're home.
If anything, Kennedy's reign is a reminder that where there's darkness, light can shine through. What are your thoughts on Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars years? Do you think Filoni is the natural successor, or is there another? Let us know in the comments.
That boy is our last hope.
No, there is another.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.